Well, welcome to another edition of Living United with Nashua Business. The purpose of this show is to talk with local businesses that are giving back to the community, learn a little bit about what makes them tick, learn a little bit about what they do as businesses, how they're working on growing in this environment, servicing customers, and frankly, what they're doing to give back to the community and how philanthropy makes sense to them. So I'm super excited to have with me in the studio today my good friend, Steve Forkey. Steve, welcome to our show.
Pleasure to meet you. See you, Mike.
We have known each other for a very long time, it occurs to me.
Yeah.
Steve, I'm going to guess it's at least 15 years, maybe longer.
Yeah, that's about right. Yeah.
So, and you're in the internet business.
Yes, sir.
So it's a good thing nothing has changed in that time, right?
Yeah, no, not a thing. I mean, it's the same as it was in 1993, you know? No, not even, no. It changes every day.
It changes every day. And I want to talk, we'll get to philanthropy in a little bit. But first of all, I want to, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You're a family-owned business.
Yep.
Your wife, Cheryl, and yourself, and been doing that for a while, which I'd like to talk a little bit about as well. So let's maybe start in the beginning. How did Web Action Group get started, and what's the vision, and how has that gone for the last couple of years?
Well, I actually had the idea in 1993 because I was laying on my back, recovering from back surgery, and I started building websites and hosting websites in a little, a finance computer in the side back room of the house, and it just grew from there. Everybody needed websites at that point. Everybody was finally realizing that, oh, gee, we really got to get going on this. We can't sit back and let our competitors all beat us out. So
1993 really is the dark ages of the internet.
That's very beginning. Yeah.
I still have AOL at home, and that was then.
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. AOL had the greatest marketing thing with just sending out their disc to everybody.
Millions
that was a great idea. Yeah.
Millions of them.
And they landed millions of clients from it, so it worked. But
they did. But I'm one of the few guys that when he turns on his computer and he logs onto his email, it says, "You've got mail." Whoever's voice that was, that's worth $1 million, right?
I can still hear the bleed of the modem in the background.
Yeah, like 1200 baud modem, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Gee. We were all excited when we got the 56K. We were jumping up and down.
So jump forward from 1993 to 2022. We're talking about 30 years.
Almost 30 years, yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And of course, the internet is a totally different place than it was then. And you didn't have Google. You didn't even really have search engines per se.
Not in 93, no. Well, when I first remember, Google was called Backrub. And that was way, way back. That's at the very beginning.
And then came Yahoo and Lycos and a bunch of other things, and then Google. And now you guys are in the business of helping to do what? What are some of the services that you offer?
Primarily, I guess, as a whole, it's digital marketing. It's marketing online. We leverage Google. We don't try to beat Google. We try to use Google in the way Google wants, so that our clients win at the game. Google has given us a lot of tools. Not that I'm a Google fanatic, because I'm not. I don't like anybody taking over any big portion unless it's necessary, but they've got the piece that everybody uses. So as business owners, we have to pay attention to that. That's where the eyeballs are. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the places. Now we have a myriad of social media. We have all kinds of channels all over the place, but Google's still the primary search tool. Everybody goes, Google's become a verb.
Yes, that's true.
It's like, yeah, Google something, whatever. It's an action to be taken.
Well, my mother-in-law is German. And she doesn't speak English, but when she doesn't know something, the answer to a question, she'll just look at me and she'll say, "Ask the Google."
Ask the Google, yeah. It's funny. That's funny because my mother-in-law refers to it sort of the same way too. The Google. I've heard it from many people. Yeah, ask the Google. Yeah, it is the place. Yeah. It is the place to go. They made a good search engine. They actually did a lot years ago. You could spam the heck out of it by just using the right words in the right places and get it to do what you wanted. Yeah. But Google got smart very fast.
So let's say I'm a local business. Let's say I'm in the plumbing business. I'm starting out. Maybe I have a couple of customers. I have my license. I'm starting to build the business a little bit. But I know that I want to build it and grow it a lot. And I know that my customers are going to come to me from online presence. So what would be your advice to me? Where do I start out? What do I do to get going here, Steve?
Google My Business.
What does that mean?
First thing, Google My Business is Google's place for businesses online. This is where your business is. It's all the NAP, all your name, address, and phone.
So is that when
your citations?
So if I look up, if I go online, if I go to Google and I type in the search engine, Web Action Group, that little pane that comes up that it'll have a little map.
Yes.
And it'll have the phone number, website, information, maybe reviews. That's what you mean by Google My Business.
Yes.
And so how do you get that?
It's really just a matter of making sure you register your business properly with Google.
Okay.
It's simple. Google has the option. You can go right to Google and look up Google My Business.
Okay.
It'll take you right to it, and then you can register the business. You make sure you include. The secret to Google is give it everything it wants. So fill in every space you can.
So the hours, the services, all of that stuff.
Right. So that's the other part. Make sure you explain what you do, the services that you offer. Don't leave that out. Those are important elements.
Do you need a website before you do that?
No, you don't have to. No.
Okay.
No, but it's better that you do.
Can you add it later?
And yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. You can augment at another time, but just getting into the listing and making sure your business is registered with Google. See, Google will find it on its own anyway.
So that's you would do that before
do
even having a website, before maybe even having a Facebook page. You would go and make sure that you're registered with Google My Business.
Absolutely. Yeah.
First thing nobody knows that but you, Steve. So that's just amazing. You're the Google. You're my Google.
Actually, I think there's a lot of good players in my industry around here that do understand this, because it is a key point.
Yeah.
You need to do that. It allows your business to be found right away. Even if you don't have the website, you can still be found.
So what do I do next? So I've registered my business. I've got it set up on the Google My Business. What would you say to the new budding entrepreneur? Do this thing next.
Content.
So content for like a website.
Yes.
Okay.
They should have a website, and they should look to provide reasonably useful content. You want to explain about what you do, but honestly, if you want to get a good rank in Google, you have to optimize your pages for keywords, of course.
Yeah.
But as you're studying and building out a website and deciding on what you tell people and how you present the business, the keywords come out as you are doing this. You'll start to understand. And the owner of a business will always know what their clients say and think. How do their clients think? What words do they use? We'll take that. And of course, if we're going to optimize, we take that and we do research and we confirm everything. But you got to be thinking about those things. And Google wants to see, 1,000 words on a homepage.
Yeah.
To get a good solid ranking, because in Google's mind, you have to have that much in order to be valid, in order to be able to explain the subject enough so that the average person would understand it.
So in the internet world, just like every other world, we have DIYers who sometimes do a great job, sometimes probably do such an awful job that they make the best clients.
They do.
But what if I didn't want to? What if I wasn't a DIY? I've got my Google My Business. I can do that, but the work is starting to come in. I don't have time to make the website. Just call Steve. Can you do that for me?
Yes, absolutely.
So you could build it from the ground up.
Absolutely. We take it from scratch. Yep. We help you figure out a domain name if you want to, right from the get-go, and try to find one that's going to be, potentially memorable if possible.
Yeah.
But something that's fairly easy for people to spell and use. When you get into long, extended domain names, they're easy enough to rank and everything because Google understands the whole thing.
Right.
But when you have somebody to try to somebody try to remember it, and who was that company? And what was that website? If you can find a way to make it a little catchy, that maybe they'll remember it, that's a better way to go. But always register the business name, always.
Yeah.
Always. No, whatever you can do to get that business name, you want the business name, because that's the property of the company. That's the real company, is that business name. And then, sometimes, you'll find, a construction company that has the domain name is We Build For You. Something that is a little bit memorable. People might remember, wasn't it, something like whatever.
Sure.
Potentially memorable.
Build
out the website. But then that also means there's content that has to be considered. When we build sites, I started building sites so many years ago. Google was barely even a thing in 1998. It was really just starting to get rolling. But we had already started implementing procedures technically for SEO, for optimizing content, meta tags and alt tags for imagery and all that sort of thing. We were thinking, okay, what keywords should we be using?
Yeah.
Many websites, you'll see the first page, the home page comes up, and what does it say in the top, in the title on the browser? Home.
So the whole thing about this
Nothing. It's
search
worthless.
engine, so the whole goal of this search engine optimization from a layman's perspective is when somebody goes to the internet and they search for a product or a service, the most logical searches, what you want is for your business to come up very high in the return.
In the result.
So, and I'm from the print world, right? So I would call that above the fold, right? You
Exactly,
want to be at the
exactly.
top of the page. You
Yep.
don't have to scroll down to page 28 to find,
Right.
Mike's Plumbing Services.
Yeah.
And that's what you do.
Yes, that is one of the issues with alphabetical directories. If your
Yeah.
name begins like W with mine,
Yeah.
I'm way at the bottom of that list.
Yeah, you don't want to be.
You're never going to find me there. But if I'm in a search engine, I can optimize for a certain set of keywords and be relevant to that search. Also have enough authority to rank against your competitors for the search, then you'll get found.
And what sort of results do you have with your customers?
Well, I don't brag much, but all of our clients are on page one for some relevant search or other, maybe some for many.
Yeah.
But that's where they need to be.
Well, I can tell you as one of your clients, Truth in Advertising, yes, we are, and we weren't always, and that's really a big attribute to you and to Cheryl.
No, thank you. No, that's the least we can do.
Well, yeah, but you do that with all your customers,
Yes,
right? So-
absolutely. The biggest thing is the greatest challenge are very competitive industries. For example, dentist. How many dentists do you imagine are in Nashua?
A whole lot.
You're right.
A whole lot.
How many do you imagine are in any city, any town?
Yeah.
Well, some of our clients are dentists, and we had one in particular that I really love the people. They're wonderful people, and he became my dentist because he's so good at what he does, and he fits with me. But they were struggling when I first started to work with them. They were in trouble. They had spent a lot of money on advertising that just wasn't helping. He put money into radio, and a lot of money. And radio in 2005 or 6 or 8.
I run a radio show. Careful here,
Well,
man.
with respect,
No, I get it.
radio,
I hear you.
but it's not you consider your primary medium that you're going to find people. And we took that practice in 4.5 years. We took him from being in the hole big time to becoming $1 million practice, which is what he wanted to do. It's what he said right there. He says, I want $1 million practice. I know I can do this. And he's highly specialized, but he does a lot of very, very good work for lots of different types of dental work. Any kind of repair, any kind of restructuring, he can do that.
How important are reviews in something like that?
Very important. Reviews are probably the first thing that people will look at. Sometimes now, not even before they even look at a website. They'll get a name of a company and let's go check on Google and see what kind of reviews they got.
Right.
What do they have? Are they any good? And I would recommend that if anybody sees a company that has no negatives, that they seriously consider whether they do business with them, because everybody's got negatives. Everybody, no matter how hard you try in business, no matter how hard you try.
What I like to do is I look at the negative reviews and I look at how did the owner respond to the review.
That's the key. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, I like that, and sometimes because it tells you a little bit about the integrity of the business.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. That somebody can look at it. I could go through and I look at reviews and wow, these are really good. And there's a 4.5 and 5 and 4.5 and 5, and then there's a 1.5. Well, wow, what happened? Something really went wrong.
Well, I got a 1.5 for star review at United Way.
Oh, did you really?
0.5, like super bad review, and then I read the review, and the person who wrote the review said that we were charging too much for our services. And I had to think about that for a little bit, because we don't actually have services that we charge for. Everything we do is a service to the community.
Yeah.
And so I wrote that down. And I said, I think there must be a misunderstanding. Maybe you're thinking of something else, or maybe there's something that I don't understand, but we don't really charge for our services. And please get in contact with me directly if you have questions.
But that's the right way. That's the right way. We have an app that we created, we use for our clients, that helps divert a negative to them directly,
Yeah.
So that if it's a 4 or 5 review, right into Google, right into Facebook, no problem. Piece of cake everywhere. But when it's less than that, then we give it so it goes directly to our client on a private email address that only they use for that purpose.
Yeah.
And they get to directly address it immediately. They can go right to the client and say, gee, what happened? We really, this is not what the outcome we wanted. So how can we fix this? And just the fact that an owner will take the time to reach out to those people is part of what people want to see. They see that, and that in a way is gratifying. Say, wow, this is somebody I can do business with.
I think that's true. For me, that's definitely true in looking at businesses. How about this whole, I've heard that it's pretty important that a website is designed so that it's not just looking good on a screen, but it's optimized so that it works on your mobile device, on your, I would say on your PDA, but of course that would really
PDA, what?
dating yourself. It's got to look good on your Newton, man. No, or your
BlackBerry, right?
Your Palm Pilot.
Oh, we still use Blackberries? I don't know.
I don't know. I just threw away my original Palm Pilot, so I feel liberated. But no, the on your smartphone.
Yes.
It's important that when you pull up a website that it actually formats properly. And does Google care about that?
It does, absolutely.
Really?
Now. In fact, Google gave mobile priority, it's got to be at least 2 years ago now. That they consider, because most people use the phone. More people use the phone than the desktop now to look at things. Frankly, I don't do it myself because my eyes are getting bad.
Now,
it's a very small
we
screen,
also know that Google is the software developer for the Android operating system. So if I was them, I would say, like, if it looks bad on the Apple, that's even better. I'm sure they don't care that.
Actually, if you do build a website correctly, the parameters are all built into it for mobile display. There's a whole sequence of a style sheet that's built into the website code that says how it's supposed to be displayed. We use a platform called WordPress, which is quite often, it simplifies a lot of the process. But for that part, when we build WordPress sites, the themes that we use are all responsive. So it doesn't matter what device you're looking at it on. It displays in such a way that you can use it. Navigation's not so close you can't hit one without hitting another.
Right.
There's a lot of little points there they'd have to take up. And Google has what they created their Core Web Vitals program, which is a way to measure the response of a website. And we use several tools. And according to those measurements, we measure it and we fix when there's things like inline code and things like that have to be moved so that they're more like include calls as opposed to the code being in there where that something has to be read through constantly. Where, Google jumps over a script and things like that. But either way, you want to minimize what has to load, the order it loads, how fast it loads. We compress graphics so that they're still really high quality, but they'll load as quickly as they can.
There's one website that I get emails from, and they have embedded graphics that are really high resolution graphics. And I get this email, it's like a daily email blast. And I click on the link, and I always just regret doing that because it has this big picture at the top, a banner, and it starts, and I feel like I'm on like a 1200 baud modem.
But it's loading one line at a time.
But at like high bandwidth speeds, it's like it's terrible. And I want to tell these people, like, don't do that. Just don't do that because it bugs me. So I have a question for you. Another question.
Okay.
So you and Cheryl are very involved with giving back to the community, and this is like one of the reasons why I wanted to have you come on the show. And so you've been partners of ours at United Way for a long time. Thank you, which is amazing.
It is our pleasure.
But my guess, the question I always like to ask people when they come on is, now I know you and Cheryl you live here and you work here. You're a locally owned and operated business. I imagine many of your customers are here as well.
Within 60 or 70 miles, yeah.
So obviously you're going to give back to the community where you live and you work, and your customers are as well. Yeah. How much of that is also the business proposition for you of giving back to the community? How do you think about it that way, or do you just do it because you're just great people?
It's part of us as far as a business, but it's also part of us as people.
Yeah.
I've always felt that if I'm a business owner in a community and the community is helping me be successful, then I kind of owe the community a debt for that. I owe the community something for that. And I know Cheryl feels the same way. So,
Yeah.
and we've tried a lot of different organizations where we went to them and spent a lot of time in the organizations, and that started to be difficult for us. When COVID hit, that changed everything for everybody. But we pulled back a lot. We couldn't do networking, but we knew we could always give back through the United Way.
Oh, okay.
Because, well, frankly, you people have good judgment as to where the money goes. You give it to worthwhile organizations around this area. I know some of the folks that run some of those organizations, and I know they're very, very proud to be part of the downline, if you will, from United Way.
Interesting.
But that to me has been probably the greatest reason for using United Way as our give back, if you will, is because of where you put the money, how you support so many organizations, and you do so much for the community, engage people all the time. I'm still not going to jump out of an airplane with you, buddy. I just not going to do that. But
but I might be able to get your wife to do that.
You just might. Hey, she's the Army. She's the Army kiddo.
I know who's brave in this relationship. By the way, my wife liked jumping out of the plane a heck of a lot better than I did too.
Really? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I did the first year. We did our event, and she was just like having a nervous breakdown. So the next year we did it, and she said, well, this year I'm going to do it. And she did. And when she landed, I walked over to her. I thought she was going to probably punch me in the face.
Can I do it again?
She was from ear to ear. When do I get to go next?
Yeah, when do I do it again? Right.
It was amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
I was just like shocked. So, but your approach, I appreciate your approach. Of course, our philosophy is to invest back in the community in ways that are meaningful and help to elevate us all. And so you guys being part of that really is something we do appreciate.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that United Way is here. You folks, you run it well.
Thank you.
I think you got great people. Your staff are all wonderful people that I've met so far. I really enjoyed the golf event. It was just a lot of fun. And I mean, hardly any of us hit the holes we needed to.
Oh, the Chambers event, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
That was so much fun.
That was a blast, yeah.
It really was.
And we were just fortunate we were able to take the time to do that. We have a 9-year-old now in our charge, so that takes a lot of our attention because it's important, and we're she's the new reason why we do a lot of things, Well,
I think our kids, we look for our kids and our grandkids. We get a lot of inspiration from them. I find, I think a lot about, we have a 1-year-old grandson, and I think a little bit about, how is what I'm doing, what my wife is doing, what any of us is doing, going to make the community better for him and make the world better for him. And hopefully down the road, he'll be able to do the same for, his kids in the community as well.
Yeah.
So
maybe he learns that from you. You can pass that on, that attitude, that idea.
Well, if he turns out to be just awesome, I will definitely take credit for it. But if he's a little brat, then that's all my daughter's doing.
Well, we always have some of that, right? We can't get away from that. I mean, there's times, I'm learning to be a parent because we don't have any of our own. I mean, I have many, many, many nephews and nieces.
Yeah, I know you do.
I'm from a large family, and so is Cheryl. But we don't have any of our own, so she's now become ours. She's more like our child now.
I think that's awesome.
And we're her home. She has no other home to be. This is her home.
Well, good for you guys. And I know that Cheryl and I talk about that as well. And it's clear that's it's very important.
It's surprising how much how important it has become. Right. It was not, because like I said, I don't have any children of my own. I never actually raised children myself, but we're raising one now.
It's a lot of work, huh?
It is. But like you say, there's a lot of inspiration. There's a lot of fun. I hope that we pass some inspiration to her, onto her too, that the most important thing is to get her to just try.
Well, that's exactly right.
Just try.
Yeah. So what's next for you and Cheryl and Web Action Group? What's on the horizon?
We're building our client base back. I signed a new client this afternoon. I was in a hurry to get all over here because I thought I was going to be late and everything. But he called me and he said, "Can you meet me here?" And he meet me there. Yep, no problem. So,
that's fantastic.
And it was interesting because we ran I went down to Amesbury, Mass. I went down to Reading, North Reading, Mass. To meet with these guys on their site because they couldn't do it anyplace else. It's just we got to be there. So fine, whatever. I have a client who's
so it sounds like you're pretty hands-on with trying to learn a little bit about their business.
Absolutely. I want to know them. That's one of the things that COVID made difficult, was to be able to actually get to know the individual in their business environment. People are what make the business different. That's what makes, you got 25 of the same company, every one of them is going to be different because it's different people running the show. They have a different voice. They have a different brand idea. Their concept is different.
Yeah.
It may only be this different, but it's still going to be different.
Sure.
So we approach every client as if they're a completely blank slate, and then you tell us what we need to know. And we do everything we can to elicit as much of that information as possible. We're going through the whole process of creating a website. Well, just throw something together and say, here you go.
Right.
I want to know what they want. What do they want to see? How do they want to present their company? What is their voice, their brand?
What do they want their customers to think of them?
That's it. What do they want the prospect to think of them? Somebody who's just thumbing through social media and sees some pictures, or pops through the web and is looking for a builder, and then they happen to find the site.
We were working on a strategic planning project the last year or so at United Way, and one of my board members who was leading that process helped us a lot with our branding by just asking us, what is it that we want people to say about us? How do our customers feel about us? How do we want them to feel about us? And I think those are really important questions for any business, any organization to ask itself.
Yeah, I agree. I think those are great questions to work with, to start with even.
Well, look, Steve, we're out of time. But what I do have to say is, I have a hat for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
Nobody ever comes on to Mike's United Way show without getting a gift, and nor is it ever a very good one. So here you go. I got a hat for you and a hat for Cheryl.
I'll be happy to bring it to her. Thank you so much.
Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks.
Really, really appreciate it.